the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Bud.
Present.
Barb.
Here.
Dan Robbins.
Here.
Tabitha.
Here.
Keith. Ken.
Present.
Jim Brandenburg. Here. Matt. Here. Thank you. Ellen Miles.
Bryce, I know it's comfortable.
Yep.
Keith is still on vacation.
We all join.
If he doesn't come next month, we'll have a meeting down Florida.
Okay. So moved.
That sounds like a great
We'll put it on his tab.
Don't laugh too loud, he's watching.
Yeah, but maybe he won't hear us. Maybe he tuned in
You
later.
sure he's watching?
Yeah, I know he's watching.
Well, then he can be, yeah. Okay, you have an addition to the bills. I know you sent it this afternoon.
Yes, it was a late addition to the bills, $13,350 to Cunningham and Associates. That brought the total for the February payables to $27,929.63.
I move that we accept the motion to pay for the proper appropriate accounts as published and amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And you've had time to read the minutes. Are there any questions or corrections on the minutes?
No correction.
I had one minor, just the deputy's report that I wish I copied and pasted. I didn't change it over to 2023. I listed it as 2022 on the spreadsheet. So that's been corrected.
Is there any other corrections?
No.
Then we need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, before we start tonight, I would, I'm sure I speak for the whole council when I say to Mark Ruder, we're very sorry about the loss of your father. And those of you that did not know Jim Ruder does not know what an asset he was to Briarwood Beach. I know a lot of you moved in here after Briarwood Beach no longer existed. But while it was a proud village, Mark's parents were very, very instrumental in keeping that place going. 25 years.
Wow.
He had a great influence on this community. He did a lot of work. You know that we were not a high crime area, but he still did a lot of work with kids in the village. He took care of everything. The people loved him. We eventually had Briarwood Police also become the police for the village of Chippewa on the Lake by contract. So it's amazing that a place as small as Briarwood was able to maintain this police department. And they always had 2 or 3 at least officers, right?
Yeah.
Jim retired in the 90s.
Yeah, just before the village this village came into existence.
And Mark's mother, Linda, who passed away 2 years ago, she was the village clerk treasurer. And between his parents, between the two of them, they really kept Briarwood going at many times. So they were important people in this community. I know they didn't get out much in their later life, so a lot of you probably did not know them. But I don't think Briarwood, in turn, our village of Chippewa Lake would be what it is today without the help of the Ruders. So sympathy to you, Mark, and your family.
Thank you.
Perhaps it would be appropriate to name that little park next door to his father's house.
The Ruder Park.
That's not a bad idea, I actually thought about that.
And you had said something, Mark, one time about putting plaques in there. So I would think that one of his parents would be one of the first ones we put up.
Absolutely, yep.
Because as time goes on, these people are just lost to, I know a lot of you here maybe knew him. Matt, you probably know him, but a lot of you did not. And that's just kind of pieces of history of this place that get away from us. So I think that will be a good idea. Okay, now we will go on with, I'm gonna do safety first, and then we have a guest speaker. So Alan, safety?
Yeah, we have Deputy Harhay with us here tonight. Looking at the report for January, targeted 80 hours, 84 hours were worked, so it's well within our green zone. Miles logged on the cruiser, 745, gallons of fuel, 3.8. Deputy hours worked, Harhay 30, Cornelius 30, King 24. Total for 84, so we're doing good on that. And we continue 80 hours a week through February, March, and April. Deputy Harhay, no problems received with that.
No. You mean per month, right?
I'm sorry?
You mean per month, not
Yeah, per
per week.
month, yes, I'm sorry. On activities, I'll just read them. Burglaries, 1, alarm activated entry or burglary, 1, drunk intoxicated person, 1, disturbance or fight, 2, fire alarm commercial, 2, squad ambulance, 6, extra patrols, 55, Victor Watch, 64, suspicious person or vehicle, 1, harassment phone call or text, 2, lockout, 2, building checks, 12, consensual encounter, 1, debris on roadway, street obstruction, 1, follow-up, 2, suspicious circumstances, 3, threats, 2, complaint, reckless operations, 1, traffic stops, 2, welfare check, 1. Total activities, 163, which is, from a count, is fairly high, but it's really in the extra patrol. 64 Victor watches is a lot of watches for vacation. And then building checks, 12. Deputy Harhay, were there any problem areas that you want to bring to our attention?
Polar plunge went well, as you know.
Absolutely, I did. I'm going to be thanking you after that.
What's a consensual encounter?
If you see somebody loitering around somewhere and you just go up to them and start talking to them. Sometimes it turns into other things, depending.
Basically, they're asking to be able to talk to them. Kind of how it works.
Checking them out, see what's going on.
Yeah. It's passive at that point. On the fire department report, published this out, Assistant Chief Tim Holtzman has done a stay in the hospital with pneumonia. And so with Winkler no longer Assistant Chief Holtzman, but they've got a good backup. Mike Sebeski, Captain Mike, has taken over. I'll talk a little bit about how they're working with Westfield a little bit. On the front page there, you see the total, there were 64 total activities in January, 4 for Glory Glens, 5 for Chatham, 45 for Lafayette Township, 1 to the city of Medina, Chippewa Lake were 8, Granger Township 1. And you can see kind of the listing of incident group. They had a overpressure rupture explosion was 1, EMS was 51, hazmat was 3, service calls 2, good intent calls were 5, false alarms 1, special incident 1. Good intent call was a new terminology for me. And Captain Sebeski responded back, that's where if they have an incident they go to and it's not what they were called out for, reduced, they call that a good intent. It could also be if they're en route to a call and it's waved off, they put that under a good intent category. So 64 was the total count. You can see the green, EMS takes the bulk of all of our activities that we're involved with. So we want to keep them running in shape. Turnaround time in January was 2 minutes and 19 seconds, which is excellent. Travel time, turnaround time to get the call till they're heading out the door. Travel time to an incident was 5 minutes and 12 seconds. So 7 minutes, 31 seconds from time calls into arrival at an incident. So that's pretty good. They had monthly training, electric vehicle fires, which you can understand with new electric vehicles, that's good training for them. Medical controls, protocol updates, and field termination. They did that on January 25th. Some updates, Lafayette Township Fire Department was awarded a $22,550 grant from American Rescue Plan for first response wellness. Funds were used to assist the training for first responders around mental health and wellness. Lafayette Township Fire Department applied for individual fire department equipment grant through the Ohio Department of Commerce, State Fire Marshal's Office. If awarded, funds will be used to purchase new supply line hose. We've been working closely with the Chippewa Lake and the Chippewa Lions Club, prepare for the annual polar bear run, walk, and jump. That was scheduled February 4th. I'll talk on that in a minute. And the annual all-you-can-eat breakfast sponsored by the Township Firefighters Association will be held in April, every Sunday in April except for Easter Sunday. And speaking on the polar bear jump, for the fire department, that is used for cold weather training. And with Chief Holtzman and being out of commission, there was a great cooperation between Westfield Township Fire Department, Captain Brian Kavanaugh, and a lot of his staff and the Lafayette staff. And cold water training, a lot of people don't know when the polar bear was evolved, that was a big part of the fire department. They didn't have good cold water training opportunities, didn't have equipment, didn't have all kinds of apparatus. Now they have quite a bit. Lafayette had red Gumby suits where Westfield was a little more sophisticated. They had some pretty sophisticated yellow dry suits. Young people were in the water, they were having a ball. There was 4 of them in there most of the time. One time I think I saw 5 or 6, and they were enjoying it. So, and you think about them being cold, the reality is that they almost overheat because the suits are so warm. This year the water was roughly waist deep, and Eric Niger will tell you, without the help of the people in the water, Lafayette Township, Rick Evans trying their big front end loader, because it was in the teens, it was in 20, 25 mile an hour winds when we were doing the install. It was much warmer come to jump time, but all of those people together allowed all the docks to get put in place against the wind. And without the good young guys, men and women in the water, they wouldn't have got done well. So a big thank you to the deputies and Westfield and Lafayette Township Fire Department.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we know, down here it says the exception turnout time of 10 minutes or greater is not used. Do we know how often? Do they have that documented anywhere? How often they have that first box on the top?
Yeah.
Says it's considered an exception, not used in the calculations.
That's a real good question. I didn't see that when I saw the report. I asked Captain Sebeski about the good intent call, but I didn't catch that to do that.
I just, I mean, your average.
Yeah, right, when you throw the high numbers out, but maybe there was an exception
Just,
to
I'm not
that.
just saying.
Yeah. Examples would be if
Big deal.
let's say they have one active crew and they get a call and that crew's out and they have to call other people in, that could be an exception for that. But that's a good question, I'll get it defined.
Well, I had a lawmaker with 17 minutes, but they were on the call. They had sent somebody else out. We had to wait.
Or they have to go for mutual aid for Westfield or Seville or whoever's they're in cooperation with. But I'll get a good answer for you.
17 is a long time.
I know, thank God the neighbors were there with hoses and
Well-
they had a big disaster. I'm certain.
It's a medical emergency or fire.
Unless it was fire, it could have
that's-
taken out 2 houses
Yeah.
immediately. On a
Well,
really windy day.
On that particular one, there was a crew out on Westfield, and then the fire was up on Bungalow Bay, but they called it to beat the beach parking lot. So it took them a few minutes to regroup and get to the right place. So it was one of the houses up on the hill.
It was in between Bungalow Bay and Longacre, so it was, either way it was okay to go. But it did take a very long time, so fortunately, the neighbors hooked up some hoses and got it out.
That was good situational awareness on the neighbor's part.
Yeah, it was.
Your neighbor's house is burning out, it's okay to go get a hose. Okay. Any other questions? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Okay, now, instead of going to zoning, Bud, would you like to introduce?
Yes, I asked Mr. Nils Johnson, president of Cunningham and Associates. He's also a professional engineer. He drew up the correction for the bank erosion that we're experiencing on McCabe Creek. So I asked him to come and describe what he's suggested as a remedy in the way of an engineering diagram to not only discuss it with you, to answer any questions you may have regarding it. So it's all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Bud. I've been working with Bud on this for a little while. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the location we're talking about. It's there between Craggy Creek Drive, I think it's Park Lake Drive. And there's that section of the creek that it takes a little meander and it's coming right up to where the curve is in Park Lake Drive, and it's caused significant erosion. The banks are vertical, in fact, they're undercut in that area. So the goal here is to come up with a remedy, solution to prevent that from continuing to migrate. Ultimately, the road will become at risk. And I know there's a utility line, there's a water line, and other considerations. So, you know, our scope of work involved, number one, a topographic survey of the area to draw up an existing conditions plan. Then we looked at the watershed area. We looked at the hydrologic and then the hydraulic component of how that flow moves through the stream corridor. We looked at stream stabilization options to utilize at this location. What's difficult is you don't have a lot of width from the edge of the existing pavement to where this failing stream bank is. It's less than 10 feet in that area. So our options are limited. We need to do something that's more of a vertical component, something like a retaining wall system, or, you know, what we're looking at is actually gabion baskets, which act like a retaining wall. And then we also, you know, we looked at those options, prepared detailed construction plans, and then also looked at the environmental permitting aspect. And, you know, I see there's plans there. I brought plans. If anybody wants to see anything in detail, I'd be happy to go over that with you. So the gabion baskets is kind of what we arrived at as a potential solution. And the way that would be constructed is we would, the contractor would excavate out and build almost like a base below the stream bed alongside the east side of that stream bed. You'd excavate down about 2 to 3 feet below the normal stream bed elevation and start with a good base, and everything gets wrapped in geotextile fabric as a separation between our proposed structure and the existing ground. So we would lay the gabion baskets they come in cells of 3 by 3 by 3. So we would lay those about 2 to 2.5 feet below the existing stream bed on the side on that channel, and then build up from that. So the overall height of the gabions would be about 9 feet, but about 2 to 2.5 is buried along that stream bed. So the net effect is about 6.5 feet of gabion baskets along that east side of the channel. You know, the area that was being undermined, it's probably 40 to 50 feet in length, maybe a little bit longer, and then we have to kind of taper that into the existing channels, both upstream and down, where those banks are still secure. So the overall project length is about 75 feet in that area. And then the gabion wire is a galvanized wire. It's, I mean, the typical lifespan for those type of systems are 50 years. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the gabion baskets, but it's, it's a wire mesh basket that's created and filled with rock. In this case, the rock would be anywhere from 3 to 8 inches in size. So you place each gabion along the stream bank, fill them with rock, and then you work to the next row, do the same thing. These are all mechanically fastened together. And as you look at the stream bank, it steps up almost like a stair step as you go up the stream bank, and there's a little bit of a canter to it. So it's more of a freestanding retaining wall system, and then behind it, it's backfilled with some smaller stone, and then covered with 6 to 12 inches of topsoil, seeded, stabilized, and then, what Bud and I talked about is what type of safety barrier would be appropriate between that edge of pavement and the top of this bank. Right now, there really isn't anything other than the vegetation that's established on that bank. I mean, you could put in a guardrail, you could put in guard posts. Those aren't the most aesthetically pleasing things to look at. So what we arrived at was planting like an evergreen tree staggered every 10 feet or so along that entire construction area. So that would provide kind of a physical barrier from the edge of the street to the top of this stream bank. And we're not proposing to realign the stream or do anything significant to the water course. It's really just stabilizing and reclaiming that bank. So from a permitting standpoint, the Army Corps of Engineers has what they call nationwide permits to cover things like this that are maintenance related items on existing municipalities' infrastructure. And it's a way to streamline the permitting process. Our sub-consultant, which is HCW, their environmental consultant, took a look at this project. And I know I forwarded their findings to Bud, but I've highlighted a few things that are probably worth reading. The Cave Creek is likely a federal jurisdictional feature known as a waters of the U.S. and thus subject to Section 404 regulations. Section 404 prohibits the discharge or dredged or fill material in the waters of the U.S. without proper permits from relevant regulatory agencies. In this case, we're talking about the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The regulatory agencies have found it appropriate to streamline this process for common activities, such as the rehabilitation of existing infrastructure. This is done through the general permits of the nationwide permit program. For this project in particular is best serviced by nationwide permit 13, which is a maintenance permit. And there's certain thresholds associated with these nationwide permits. How long is your project? How many cubic yards of material are you placing in the stream channel below the ordinary high water mark? Things like that. If it were a project that had more than 500 feet of stream bank stabilization, or if we're placing a certain amount of cubic yards per foot into the stream channel, that would trigger the review process through the Army Corps of Engineers. In this case, we're well below those thresholds. So our consultant determined that the project met all the non-notifying criteria and determined that the project could proceed and would be able to abide by all regional, state, and general conditions listed in the nationwide permit. And it's their opinion that the project can proceed without the need to notify the Army Corps of Engineers or Ohio EPA and whatnot as part of the project, since we qualify under these nationwide permit conditions. Now, I know that, I think there was a question about FEMA, whether FEMA would be involved. Typically, Floodplain matters are administrated locally by your floodplain administrator. I know there's some paperwork that we looked at and filled out that application can be made to the floodplain administrator. In my opinion, based on what I know, and we've worked on some different FEMA flood studies, the work we're doing does not significantly alter the water course, the flood carrying capacity of this creek, or do anything that would, in my opinion, trigger a need for FEMA to review this. However, if that's, what the village would like to do, we're happy to assist in that process. But, if we were moving the channel or realigning it or doing, something more significant than just stabilizing and reclaiming that bank, then some of these other regulations would come into effect. So that's the, the environmental perspective. Construction costs, that was one thing that Bud and I were discussing. What we've run into in the last couple of years in particular is shortages in the labor force, shortages of certain materials. It's been really difficult to pin down costs, especially on smaller projects like this. Number one, it's been hard to get contractors to even bid something like this. So, we were thinking that, it could be anywhere from 50, 60, 70,000. Now I know Bud received a bid today from a contractor who's around 40,000. Is that right, Bud?
Yes.
So that's positive to hear that, we have to review that bid, make sure it's, consistent with the design and everything. But I found that to be, positive news, and that, it's a more economical project than we had feared. One of the other things that came up during the design is, I think it was 15 years ago or so, the village had hired a contractor to stabilize a section of the same creek, probably 100 feet further downstream. And they used a Sierra Scape system, which is similar to the Gabion baskets. However, its system, it has the Gabion wires on the face and the bottom, but then their system is tied back, and it's more of a geotechnical design than the stacking of the Gabion baskets, which is almost a freestanding system. The Sierra Scape blends into the landscape and uses geotextile fabric and compaction of soils to tie back these Gabion sections. So it's a similar concept, different materials, but it's something that I looked at. I looked at the performance of that system downstream, and on the surface, it looks like it's held up pretty well. I talked to the contractor that installed that system, and I think he actually went probably beyond the standard design and poured a concrete footer below the stream bed, right along the edge, similar to where we were going to kind of key in the Gabion baskets. His method was to pour a footer and then tie that into this Sierra Scape system. And I'm not sure if that's what his proposal is this time around. I couldn't tell from his.
I think he has leanings that way
Okay.
in my conversation with him just today.
So, we've looked at that as an acceptable alternate to the Gabion. We would just need to make sure that system has the same design characteristics. And one of the things that when I talked to the manufacturer's representative for that system, there is if it's over a certain height, they have their geotechnical engineer look at it, certify that it's appropriate. I think we're right at that threshold where that would kick in.
Okay.
So yes, we have this bid that looks really favorable, but I think we need to review that a little bit and make sure it's, a true appropriate alternate, that there aren't any things that are missing and there aren't any extra costs that we're not aware of yet. But I thought that was, really good news when you received that bid today. And like I said, I have detailed plans. I have plans of the Sierra Scape system, which I've looked at, studied a little bit, including their brochure. And like I said, I'm not opposed to that as an alternate. I think it's something that this particular contractor is comfortable with and has had success with it, so I think it's, worth looking into. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, any specifics. One thing that does come to mind that I forgot to mention is, most of this work on the plans is proposed within the village dedicated right-of-way. However, there is a little bit of work that goes outside the right-of-way that is necessary to properly, the stream bank doesn't follow the right-of-way exactly, it meanders a little bit. So there's a little bit of work that goes on to private property. I think there's 2 different property owners that are potentially impacted. Now, this is property that's on the other side of the creek from where they reside and enjoy their property. So it's not something that, in my opinion, should really impact them, but technically that is partially on their land. So that is something that the village needs to be aware of and those property owners need to be aware of. My understanding from talking to the contractor that did this work previously and some other discussions we've had with other people is that we feel that the work could be done primarily from the street side of the creek with, excavators and certain equipment. The personnel obviously have to climb down into the creek, but we're pretty confident that they won't have to bring any construction equipment through private property to cross the creek. Of course, that's obviously up to the contractor you hire and their approach, but it appears to me that it's not, we're talking 9 feet down to dig down to the bottom of the base of this system. And then once you start working up, it's, usually 6 feet or less. So we feel like they can access it from above. And that's, I believe, how the previous project was performed, was from the street side without disrupting anything on the opposite side of the creek, where obviously that would be much more sensitive to those, or concerning potentially those property owners.
But do you want to tell everybody who your contractor is that you've been talking to?
I talked to Chris Wadzak.
I know you're familiar with him.
And Chris is the one who did the modified Gabion approach downstream. And if you've had any opportunities, we could take a break, I have photos, you can look through the prints if you like, the design plan. We've been very, very fortunate in many aspects. It's a simple repair, like Nell said, we can do from the right of way. I'm pretty confident that will be the entirety of the approach. So I open it up to you guys. What questions might you have?
I got just a couple here. I like avians. I was familiar with Akron. The San Run Parkway project was probably done 30 or 40 years ago. That was a deep ravine, winding stream, and the Gabions really supported that. And I haven't been by in a couple of years, but it was a good project, and the concept was very sound. I remember those baskets being more than a 3x3. They were more rectangular.
Yeah, the overall length of the baskets comes in different lengths depending on the project need. The individual cells are 3x3x3. So you might have a 9-foot long or a 12-foot long basket that has the 3x3x3 cells.
Yeah. Was there, comparing the Sierra Scape versus the Gabion, were there any engineering things that stood out that one had better retention than the other, or are they really just similar?
Well, the big difference is the Sierra Scape wall has a much larger geotechnical component where it's, and I have the details here, I can pass them out, where the system is tied into the bank.
Sure.
where the Gabion baskets are freestanding and then backfilled. They're not tied into the bank. So that's a component that's different. The Sierra Scape, my understanding is, in the contractor's opinion, not just this particular contractor, but a couple other people I talked to, that's a little less labor intensive getting the stone into the system, just the way it's constructed. So those are a couple differences.
So are they tying dead man or whatever you call back into the soil that's helping stabilize it?
Yes, so there's a geogrid, and that's layered in with these, these Gabion faces, and there's some pretty good illustrations of how that's tied into
Does this
Into the
new
bank.
wall tie into the old system closely?
Well, we're further upstream, so there's a gap between this project and the previous project, if that's what you're asking.
So then,
Well, yeah, so they're not.
Yeah, they're not directly adjacent to each other.
so then two questions is how much of a gap is there? And do you know how much
Couple of 100 feet
between the two?
between the two.
And how much was done the first time on that?
Pardon me?
Probably about the same length as we're doing.
Okay,
Maybe a little bit longer, but pretty comfortable.
Yeah, we're about 75 feet right now, and I didn't measure the system downstream. It's gotta be close. And then,
Now, he used the other system that Nelson's talking about.
right,
And he personally is an advocate of that system because it's less labor intensive, because you put the structure in place and then you backfill it with stone. Whereas the Gabion basket is more labor intensive because you have to fill each basket and then mechanically tie them together
right.
and then stack them up.
The gateway system is, you said it's stepped, so each layer then would be, how much of a gap is between the edges of both of them?
well, our design has an 18-inch step, so the base layer would be 6 feet wide, and then it's 4.5 in the next layer, which is 3 foot higher, and then 3 foot high at the top. So it's like a stair step system.
So that
And this
almost
in
seems like
the-
it would be inviting to some kids that would be playing
Well,
around.
the other one's that way too.
Oh, it is? I
Yeah, the other
didn't-
system has steps too. Now, what they built 15 years ago, I think they're about 8 inches, I want to say.
Yeah, the steps aren't as deep as yours.
But that's a more vertical
That's true.
situation than we have. I mean, ours is pretty vertical, but not as severe as the previous project.
Okay. For some reason in my mind, I thought that the other one was straight down.
No, no,
Okay.
and both of them actually are in places that are difficult to get to. You got deep water coming up to them and away from them. It's not someplace the kids normally play.
Mark, do you have any questions about this? Because I know you're like right there.
No,
Captain Audience.
I've actually spec'd out both systems before either one would work.
So I had a couple other questions. The first one was paid, the first project was paid for by FEMA. Is there any, I mean, this was obviously,
No, that's kind of a misnomer. What happened is that, emergency management, there was a lot of significant flooding in
right,
Medina County.
right,
And they had access to emergency money now. That money may have come from FEMA. I have no way of discerning. I don't have any records.
The emergency management people called the village and asked if we had storm damage that year. So I don't know that place on Heatherhead, you call it emergency management, they call it FEMA. So I don't know, it's one and the same.
well,
but-
I mean, this was, I mean, we got that 6-inch rainstorm, that creek was up to the bottom of the bridge, I mean, it was exceptionally washed out. So I didn't know if we would qualify for anything.
They haven't offered any of that money since, and we did have some storm damage. I forget when it was, called them and like, don't do it. But there was a time when they would call you and say, what all do you have to repair because of that, and then they just pay the bill.
They gave the village a check for $40,000
Right,
back then. So what I can share with you at this point is we have COVID money. Now, what Gary and I do not know at this juncture is if there's bidding protocol requirements put in place. So in effect, do we have to bid this project out according to their mandate? I don't know that, Gary doesn't know that. But if we do not, the anticipated bid amount falls under what we have available to us presently. We got approximately $47,000. The bid is for $37,000 and change. There needs to be some additional tree work done to prep the site for the repair. There was a conversation between Chris Wadzak and AJ. AJ says it'll be less than $2,000. But there's some variables in there we don't know. For one thing, we don't have Nell's opinion of whether or not this is an appropriate replacement for the Gabion basket. It's a similar system with some differences. The other issue is in Nell's design, he's gonna bury the first tier of Gabion baskets, about 2.5, 3 foot into the bank, the base of the creek. When I talked to Chris, he said, well, we might be able to do a concrete footer like I did downstream. But again, I want Nels to review whatever Chris thinks is a good idea, because Nels is an engineer. The other thing I did, I took a flyer and asked Dr. Winslow at Ohio State if he had any contacts with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources as a potential funding source. Because the vastness of ODNR, I didn't make any headway when I tried initially to make inroads there with that organization. So he gave me the name of a person within Natural Resources that I'll reach out to tomorrow. So that might be another potential funding source. I don't know at this point. And the other thing I don't know is, and it could have a significant impact on the price, and I'll just put it out there. Sometimes when you're dealing with grant monies, it requires you to pay prevailing wage. If that is a requirement, our costs are gonna go up substantially. So oftentimes that's kind of depending on how you secure your money, that may or may not be a trigger for prevailing wage. But I don't know that at this point.
That trigger is a dollar amount. I don't know the amount right now. We'll change it from time to time, but.
Okay,
The other wrinkle is that if the project's over $50,000.
I have to
code, you have to bid it.
but at this point, we're under that
Barely.
bid requirement.
Right.
So,
And the other thing is, have you talked to the two owners, property owners? One of
not
them
yet,
here?
this is kind of just coming together, so I have their names and I will have that conversation.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we don't run into any snags there.
Oh, right,
But we have to get an easement or a consent from them.
understand that.
Eminent domain.
The last question I had was whether or not there were any legal guidelines that dictate how much land has to be between the roadway and the waterway before you have to put a barrier up. Is there a minimum number of feet between the edge?
Well, yeah, there's,
Because a pine tree is not gonna, I mean, the speed limit is 25, but you said 6 to 10 inches of soil on top?
yeah, the top, we would want to level off the top of the topsoil so we can plant.
Pine trees
Grass.
have thin roots, shallow roots.
And the pine trees are pulled back where they shouldn't be on top of the disturbed area from construction. But still, it's a real tight window, admittedly. If you consulted with the county engineer or ODOT, they'd look at the speed limit and, they would probably consider guardrail or guard posts, something like that. the speed limit being what it is, what is it posted at, 25? You know,
Cars usually do 30, but.
I mean, you have the
Just
same
kidding.
situation as you head down the street, and I know there's a lot of vegetation that's established that helps provide a barrier. You know, I guess the thought, talking about is we'd like to avoid putting in guardrail, but, you know, if it ultimately is a safety issue, maybe something needs to be considered. But we've done sites where there's a pond or something near a road in a subdivision, we'll put in guard posts spaced appropriately, so it looks a little better than a guardrail. Just have the posts, maybe 6 feet on center or something, which would prevent, you know, if somebody slid off, the road's icy, they're not going real fast, and they slide off, the guard post should stop them from continuing on, that sort of thing. So at this time, we don't have anything permanent. We're trying to, you know, plant these evergreens to provide that barrier, but it is something that, you know, we should probably look into.
Wire, like they have between the highway, they got the post and then a cable instead of a metal.
Yeah, we could look into something like that.
It's gonna happen now, because I'm gonna say this, but I've been here 56 years and nobody's ever. The spot they're working on is about twice as much as there is down close to the bridge where you go in the water. And the spot that we've done before is probably 3 times what this spot's gonna be, as far as distance from the surface of the road to the drop off.
Okay.
So if we put a guardrail there, we need to put one down the street as well. Because it's a lot closer.
Yeah, okay.
How do we evaluate a contractor?
Well, I mean, the best thing is, references, previous work. You know, I know this contractor did some work for the village. You know, when we're getting multiple bids on a project, whether it's publicly bid or privately bid, it's references, examples of previous work. You do a little research on, you know, if there ever been any claims, things like that. If it's publicly bid, you know, you're usually looking at the low bidder, and you better have a darn good reason not to give it to the low bidder. You know, usually 9 times out of 10, it's the low bidder. Here, if we're under the $50,000 threshold, you've got a little bit of leeway. You can get a bid from somebody and hire them. So it's, you know, it's a judgment call, doing some research on the contractor's experience and you know, previous.
He's
Very
done a number
similar
of things for us, Alan, you know that.
Yeah, sure, no, I just, you know, I mean.
In fact,
that
he'd probably
other
have
people-
us give a reference
He
to
did
somebody
the Sierra
else.
Escape project, so we know he has some experience there. From a design standpoint, I like the geogrid going back in there for stabilizing from moving off, because water can have a lot of power. And maybe you have something similar that you don't think you have in the system. With this one, my question is, if you got this going up here, how much room do you actually have to go back in to do that soil stabilization?
Right, and that's the one thing about this proposal as an alternate. The manufacturer of this system has engineers on staff that should probably provide some details or opinions on this specific site and how that system will tie into that bank. We haven't, you know, with the Gabion system, we really didn't need to do soil borings and a detailed geotechnical analysis. With this system, you may want to look into that in greater detail.
Looks like the prevailing wage limit for this would be 93,292.
So we're under
That's
that.
good.
I think we need to see it stay under the prevailing range limits.
Did you do what?
Budgets and
I think he said stay under.
It was 93,000. Good number.
Is Chris the only bid you've got so far?
Okay, does anybody have any other questions?
Good, you had one.
We've held Nels up a while now, so do you have any other questions? Or
I do
you
not.
want everybody to think about this and discuss it next meeting, or have your questions answered during the month, or what?
Well, I guess what's the consensus of the council members? Is this something you need to think about? Is it something we're prepared to go forward with? Are you of the opinion you require additional information? If so, what might that be?
Well, mine was, I think he needed to review, if he hasn't already, the Sierra concept and see if that's acceptable as a bid alternative. From what you're doing, I mean, I like them both, and we have one that's more familiar with another.
I want everyone to understand, Nelson has satisfied his contract with us thus far. So anything going forward will be on an item by item schedule, as originally submitted to us.
Well, I saw his money coming in. Did that come out of ARPA money? The payment today?
Yes, it did.
And that's what a Gary question. Is that correct, Gary?
That came out of the ARPA monies, correct.
And so with that,
And I had not
that leaves you
spoken
at
that way.
47 and change.
No, that's correct.
So everyone's aware, Mr. Johnson's available to us as needed. And when we engage with Mr. Johnson and his professional service and or opinion, there'll be a bill attached to that. Because we're requiring additional professional opinions from him. He has thus far satisfied the terms of his contract. He's evaluated the site. He's done studies. He's interfaced with a environmental association and has a professional document and opinion in this 3-ring binder that he has provided. He will provide us with additional drawings as required. But anything we require additionally from Cunningham and Associates will cost more money.
Didn't he say, Alan, that the plan that he's, suggesting is the best one? That this one will work better for this site than the one that's at the other site? Didn't you say that?
Well, we came up with a suggestion of the gabion baskets. Towards the end of that design process, we were introduced to the other concept and more details became available. So we considered that as an acceptable alternate as long as the village and us can review the specifics of that to make sure it's designed properly and it's consistent with the project. So to say that the gabions are better than the Sierra Escape, I don't know that I want to say that. They're different. It's a different product. And there are some other options.
And the end result would be different also, if you had one or the other?
Well, it would look a little different. It would perform the same function, which is to secure, stabilize, and, reclaim that stream bank. The Sierra Escape involves, I think, a little more geotechnical analysis, which may not be on us. It could be on the manufacturer to provide that. I met with the manufacturer's representative, Mark Miller, I believe, with PS Construction Fabrics. And he offered that to say, well, usually over a certain height, the Sierra Escape, we have our geotechnical engineer look at that. And I think that's, they provide that as part of their cost proposal, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. The other thing, some of the components of the contractor's proposal, he has itemized things, but I don't know, like Bud said, I don't know exactly what the foundation system is. I just don't know the details of that. So the village or myself, we would have to look at that and make sure we're comfortable with that. Does that mean we'd have to draw new plans? I don't know that that's necessary.
No, I don't think, and I want everyone to understand, this Nelson and I talked. We agreed there are more than one approach to stabilizing the bank. This system is very much like, but different. The end result, they're both gonna stabilize the bank. Now, when I talked to Chris Wadzak, he's in favor of this system because it is less labor intensive. So just imagine a laundry basket that you're gonna fill with rock, and you're gonna fill up 400 of them. It's gonna take more time to fill up those 400 laundry baskets and then stack them together in a configuration, gabion baskets, as opposed to putting this structure in place and then backfilling it with stone. And because Chris had experience with this system and backfilled it with stone, and it's more labor friendly and less labor intensive, he liked this system. The other aspect about it he liked was the wire is heavier than the wire that's used to make the gabion basket. But we've all played with blocks. You interlock them and stack them up, and they become pretty, all by themselves or not so much. You start stacking them together, interweaving them, and then yet wire them together beyond that, they become pretty stout pretty quickly.
Just a question to Nils. I think prudently, we should go to the Sierra people and have their geoengineer on their dime tell us whatever he's gonna say. And prudently, if he's got some concerns, he would say, well, you better have Nils review this one more time for, all the things you talked about. So I think, I like either one of them. I can see where the Sierra could be less costly. You don't really have a gap quote yet. So if you get to Tensar, have their geo guy take a look at it and see what your next steps are. For him, what kind of engineering time do you think you would have on an evaluation of another phase?
Well, if Tensar, the manufacturer, provides a geotechnical component, that's a significant savings. It may be just a matter of analyzing what they're providing, coming to a comfort level of the footing or the keyed-in design. So, if we're not redrawing plans, we're talking hours, 8, 10, 12 hours of reviewing various documents, providing opinions. I don't think for this scope of project that we need to redraw the plans if we're utilizing this as a substitute. It's still the same overall length, it's still the similar geometry, slight changing in, how that's constructed. I just don't think it'd be worth the village's money to redraw the plans.
I don't know.
I think having their engineer analyzing the project and providing more information would be very beneficial.
In Burbank, where we do a lot of contract work like this as well, I would just caution you, we always tie the contractor back into the drawings and specifications generated by the engineer. And the contractor always has to specify in his bid that he will meet contract drawings and specifications as generated. If you don't have a finalized drawing and specification, I think it opens the village up to potential issues. That's just my opinion.
Can make Wozniak supply those for us though as well, put it on him.
And we can do that, and I want everyone to understand that Chris and Nils talked together. They did not talk together when I asked Chris to put some numbers together. Because when Nils and I spoke initially, I said, give me some kind of a ballpark. He said, you're potentially looking at $75,000. In today's labor market, like you mentioned earlier, where we have restricted employees and employers willing to engage in a project of this scale and scope. typically the people engaged in this kind of work do much bigger projects than this. So,
Well, you know, $37,000 to $70,000, you can afford to pay him a couple thousand to redo it wrong.
Is
there a
still
bid
bid
stuff
stuff
on
on this yet, or?
We don't have a bid book or detailed specifications, or you're gonna bid it out publicly, no, just the plans. We've got some bid items, quantities on the plans.
right, yeah.
But obviously, he's, you know, substituting this system, so the quantities are gonna change.
What would it take to add verbiage to your bid specifications on the plans to say, alternative, you know, something that, where this other one's acceptable, but they have to prove it, that it's the same as.
Yeah, and that's pretty common, to have verbiage like that on the side of plans.
Just to make them present their plans, engineered and all that.
You put the burden on the contractor to
Exactly.
make the substitution. We have some notes on there that we would consider this as an alternate. Doesn't really go into detail about providing the plans or geotechnical analysis, but that's something we can give some thought and probably come up with something that gives the village a little better protection. And, you know, the brochure I handed out, I mean, it has all sorts of different applications of this Sierra Escape system. It's not just for stream bank, it's for retaining walls and decorative walls and things like that. They have all sorts of boilerplate designs that might apply in this situation with a little bit of tweaking. So I don't think it's unreasonable to put that burden on the manufacturer.
Do you see any, possibility of undermining with the Sierra and not the baskets? Because I understand why you're doing what you're doing, but I don't know how the other one's built.
Well, that's the kind of the hidden piece of the quote is, okay, what exactly are they proposing for that first course, or the previous project, he poured a footer. And that's, I think when we talked originally, I was looking for drawings, you know, what was built, well, there weren't any drawings.
Right.
And, you know, he probably did a very good job and was conscientious about it. From my speaking with him and looking at it 15 years later, it appears to be holding up. But there weren't any drawings or specifications.
Correct.
You know, that we kind of need to get a handle on that. We need to nail that down. What is the exact footer or base of this? Are we just burying the first layer of the Sierra Escape system, similar to the Gabion baskets, 2.5 feet down below the stream bed? Or is he physically pouring a concrete footer and tying that in somehow? Yeah, we need to get, that needs to be spelled out and agreed on.
And we can do all those things. I just want everybody to understand. I'm not trying to put Nels on the spot, but I want everybody to understand, he's satisfied his initial contract with us. When we do things additionally further, it's gonna cost money. So everybody has that clarity of understanding.
We get it. If we use them, we got to pay them.
I don't wanna come back to you.
It's simple.
I'm not gonna pay another
So-
$15,000 though either.
So,
It's gonna be by the hour.
right, yeah, that's be an hourly charge. We have all that information from what I submitted originally. So,
Are we paying them to be here tonight? Because if so, do you guys have any more quick questions?
no, he's good enough to come here tonight.
Oh, well, thank you. He'll never do that courtesy. Yeah. Tough crowd. Does anyone have any more questions and want to see any drawings or anything?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have another set of drawings I'll leave here, bud.
And we'll
Okay.
visit this
All right,
again
great.
next month. People can
Yeah,
do your research and do whatever.
yeah.
I like the concept, but yeah, absolutely.
But did you give them a check?
I did, I did, with a promise of additional.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Hope we weren't too hard on you.
No, not at all.
Actually, they took it easy on me.
There's another set.
Okay, we can go over to zoning, while Bud is. Jim, I think you can handle the report.
Yeah, this is, not as daunting as that. 9 Parkway Path, law director to update.
Well, I haven't talked to him since the last meeting. I certainly will soon. I don't know if anything's been done. My guess is no, but
Yeah.
nothing.
Nope.
Okay, and we can refile charges anytime we want. I've already filed once. He's been convicted and it's fine. I can do it again.
Were you supposed to talk to him?
I said I would, but I didn't get to it. I can talk to you this week.
I just
You know,
need to know if we can, we're at a standstill because I can't get Brad in to do an inspection if we can't get into the building. I can't break into his house
No,
just because.
I'm sure. I think I can talk him into letting us in.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Russ, are you here about that house on Parkway Path by any chance? Okay. Go ahead.
So I mean, I'm kind of at a standstill with that. I can't go further with it. I've posted it as, you know, what it is, condemned. But, in order to order the demolition and have it taken care of, we need to have more inspection. And we're using the building department as a backer, for that sake, so. And I guess we'll skip on to 227 Rustic.
Well, one more thing about that. I'm thinking also with better weather, maybe he will do something. I mean, I've heard all the excuses and all the promises every time I talk to him. But,
Well, we've had some really great weather
yeah,
and nothing's going on. I was outside in a t-shirt today working. So
I'll
it was
take
great.
it from there.
227 Rustic Brook, that's the place with the roof that's not done and the materials laying in the driveway, and
Right.
I haven't seen anybody over there. I saw a car over there today.
Well, where that stands is, I filed charges for those problems, you know, let's see, back in November. And he was served, he failed to appear in court, there was a warrant out for his arrest, and a block on his registration of his vehicles he has through the BMV, and that's as far as the court can go. But that's hanging out there, and it's as far as I can go with the case.
Is there a way that you could find out his birth date so we know at what time he's gonna be showing up?
His birthday?
He's gotta get registration on his birthday or before.
Right.
Can we get that information so we at least
I don't have it, but we
anticipate
can
when
probably
we're
get
gonna
it
have him
through,
arrested?
we can probably get it through the sheriff's.
I talked to Jorge last meeting and gave him the information.
Yeah. Usually what's happens is these people get stopped for a traffic violation and they find there's a warrant and they take them to jail. Then they have to appear in front of the court and then we get back on track, but that's as far as I can go legally with him.
Okay.
Is the stuff still out there?
I've seen him in the house
Yeah,
when I'm out walking the dogs.
You've seen him?
Yeah, a man.
Oh.
I've seen him in there.
I-
One time I saw him in the driveway,
I saw like a black car in the driveway today. It looked like a sporty
saw him
car.
in the second floor, the windows, the blinds were open and I
Is
saw
this the
him.
house that had the garage fire?
No,
No,
now this is where he's got a bunch of construction materials sitting in the yard. I assume they're still there.
corner of Briarwood and Rustic Road.
Oh, Jimmy's house.
do you want me to call you the next time I go by and see
227.
somebody in there?
Across the street.
I don't have any interest in it right now because of where it is in
Jimmy's.
court. So, I mean, if I was trying to get a hold of him in a way, I mean, there's nothing really I can do. He didn't even want to show up for court, so he's not gonna answer a door for me.
No, but you could call Deputy Harney. Maybe he can get somebody after him. Because there's a warrant out and
So what do I just call the sheriff non-emergency and see?
a message for Harney about this guy.
Okay,
He works out of town.
Yeah, I think he does that for a living. Doesn't he do steel roofing, commercial?
Something, but I know he's out of town a lot.
That's Jimmy Christman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christmas.
I thought he had sold that, so he's still the owner.
As far as I know, I can double check that.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in several years.
Yeah, so
I had heard that that house is going up for auction this past weekend. Did it?
Well, it's listed on some of the realtor sites, my wife came across it the other day. Where is this house? I said, well, it's right up there on the corner.
227.
Does he work, is he there? Do you know? if
I
he's
don't
there?
know, I
It's in
haven't
his
seen
name.
anybody there in a long time.
I haven't either, really.
Cars coming and going, but no people.
Well, check and see if there's anything going on.
His name, it says it's not delinquent.
Auction, taxes, tax sale, whatever.
Tax
Ownership. I'll check it.
His grand total is $2,910.58.
He's no longer going out of town for his job. He does electrical work now,
So he's,
Jim Crispin.
That's the back
22 to
delinquent
23.
taxes,
Yeah,
2,900.
yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
he's got a grand total due, 2,900. But that might be, that says 22, pay 23.
This
So
one
it's up for
sells
this
in
year.
an online only auction on February 22nd, 2023.
Who's the auction through?
227.
227.
Yes.
So sheriff auction?
Is it sheriff or auditor?
OhioSheriffSales.com for complete details.
Okay.
It's an auction site.
Well,
So that could be because of default on his mortgage. I doubt if the taxes did that because that's a small amount to them.
yeah. Well, at least we know it's moving forward.
Oh, this is.
All right, we'll move on. 418
Thanks.
Northville Road.
Thanks.
You want to go ahead with that?
No.
No, I just want to
He
say
just said
that.
thanks.
Oh, thank you. 418 Northville Drive, a notice was posted for licensing and proof to operate. The vehicles were removed from the property, so it's corrected. 419 Northville, a warning notice posted for incomplete siding on the house for a truck in the driveway with no registration. The vehicle was removed from the property, and the owner has updated me and said that he is waiting for windows to come in order to replace the windows and then do the siding up to them. So he's got like, I think he said May sometime, May or June. He's waiting for the windows to come in. So, I mean, it is what it is. 473 Shortville Drive, warning notice posted for inoperable vehicle parked in the driveway. That vehicle was removed, so it's corrected. 16 Circle Crest, a notice was posted for expired plates on a Jeep. That vehicle was removed, it was corrected. 16 Circle Crest, a warning notice posted for missing siding on the house. Also firewood was a heaping pile on the driveway. So both of those have been taken care of and corrected. 173 Rustic Rook, a notice was posted for failure to submit application for dumpster permit, and that's been corrected. And finally, 273 Rustic Rook, a warning notice posted for roof and soffit repairs needed. Also, the tree growing next to the deck has compromised the railings. The house is partially coated and sealed last year. I mentioned that it needed to be completed this spring when the weather allows. The owner is planning to re-roof the house, and he's also corresponded with me by text and told me other things.
Did he, last meeting, what you said was, he said he was gonna correct the stuff the very next day,
I know, and he didn't show up for,
which obviously he did not, because it's all here now, he's gonna do it in spring, so here we
now,
go again, or what?
now he's written up officially. It was verbal before I was talking to him and asking him, but now it's officially, he has a warning notice. I gave him 30 days on the warning notice, and I contacted him with that information. He said he was over there yesterday, taking a look at things. He had a window broken, a storm window broken or something or other on the one side of the house, so he had cleaned that up, found rocks inside of his house from the broken window. Anyhow, so he's gonna be working on that, and whenever there's good weather coming, so that's something that we'll be on top Finally, well, not finally, but toward the bottom here, we have 23-001. First permit of the year is the 173 Rock Ridge permit for the dumpster. And 23-002 at 296 Briarwood Boulevard, that is another permit for a dumpster. This is the last thing on my list. It says, I have been in contact with AJ and he's planning to remove the trees on Briarwood by Tina Casa's house and along Garmin this week. He texted me just a moment ago and said it would be either Thursday or Friday this week. That's what he's got on the schedule. That's all I have for my report.
Anybody else on zoning have anything about zoning, or anybody in the room have anything about zoning? Okay, then we'll go on to community relations. Tamsin?
All right, the first thing I need to ask about, the health department does a meeting, every March. This year, it is going to be on March 6th, it's a Monday at 5:30. I have been attending these meetings for the past few years and then reporting back. My current work situation, I don't have the staff to leave the office to be anywhere at 5:30, on a Monday. There's me and my apprentice at the office and that's it. And I'm not allowed to legally leave her alone because she's my apprentice. So is there anybody who could take my place at this meeting? It is a Zoom meeting, so you don't have to physically go anywhere. It is March 6th, Monday, March 6th.
It's a Zoom meeting?
It's a Zoom meeting, it's at 5:30.
Do they tape them or review it?
They have to physically have so many people attend the meeting so they can have it. Usually lasts about 30 minutes or less. They're interesting, they're not hours long.
I'll watch it.
Okay,
Yeah, just send me the info.
Okay.
I've been to a couple of those. They're
Thank
interesting
you.
enough.
they are, you're right.
Yeah, I have another meeting later that night, so I don't want to push my limit.
I'll forward over the email that I was sent.
Okay.
And then maybe you can forward the email that you have as well, because I don't know if my email is different than your email.
Well, I printed that off the one I sent you, but.
Okay. I have a link on my email for responding to actually be at the meeting.
Okay.
Or you give him that copy I gave you.
Yeah, so
Who do I call? Someone or text?
here, I would pass that on to you.
All right.
I'll send you the email too. Thank
Okay,
you for doing that for me, I appreciate it.
no problem.
I've noticed, I'm sure everybody else has noticed too, Medina Fiber has been on the outskirts of the village. They've been on Chippewa Road, they've been on Lake Road. I had sent a few emails and phone calls to see when they're actually going to be in the village, on the village streets. And they keep telling me June. I thought maybe because they were on the outer skirts.
They're right here, yeah.
They're literally almost here, that it would be sooner, but the guys are telling me no, that it'll be June before they're actually doing it.
So they want to make a mess here in June instead of now.
Yeah, well, originally it was May/June, now they're telling me June, so.
Came down my street and it stopped right on the edge of my yard. There's
Okay.
a piece of orange pipe sticking out.
I'm gonna call again, because I got the email again today that it was going to be June.
Yeah, they
So
seem
I wanted
to be
to
in the
know.
lens right now. Looks like they've got
They are,
2 crews doing
they are.
the outskirts coming in, and then a third crew is starting down the side streets, and
And they're
they're in
making-
the lens. So
They are making.
They are in the Glens, I
They are in the
do
Glens.
know they are in the Glens, they're just not on our side
Yeah.
quite
So
yet.
I don't know if it'll take them to June to make it all the way up to us, but
The gentleman who I've been in contact with told me in an email today they wanted to come out to our next meeting to answer any questions. I figured I would ask you guys about that. We did that last year in February or March. They were here, I feel like they brought 20 people with them.
They brought the county commissioner.
It was a great meeting, it was very informative, but I didn't really believe it was necessary for us to go through that again. unless
Well, the only
anybody
thing
here-
was, we wanted them to notify us when they're coming in this village and tearing the place apart.
Yes.
And now that we've seen what happens around, they are tearing these places apart. So it would be easier for our community for them to come this time of year than the summer. When we don't have so many people here,
Right, so you.
to call us and say, what are they doing?
This is true. So would you guys like me to invite them to come to next month's meeting?
I have heard that they're trying to make a decision as to whether to put those things underground in our village or whether to put them overhead on the poles that exist.
It's all supposed to be underground, that's the point.
I know it's supposed to be, but if they can't decide whether to go over or under, they're not gonna do anything until that decision.
I saw some of them in the village last year, they were up on pole. And the guy said he was from fiber optic, he gave me a hard time about it, he was on a tennis court, but a tennis court, he was up on a pole, not down below.
I don't think they were from the 9 Fiber. I thought that was a different company.
He wouldn't say who they were.
Yeah, bring them back.
Bring them back? All
Bring 'em
right, I will ask
Bring 'em
them to
back.
come back.
Could yell at me, yeah.
Fire.
Okay. That way we can get all of our questions out of the way.
Inquiry.
The last meeting that they were
Yes,
here,
Mark.
they told us it would all be underground. They told us it would all be underground and we wouldn't have any ugly boxes on our properties either, that everything was gonna be underground. And there would be little discs for access about yay big on the last time they were here.
Did you have something, Mark?
No?
Well, they're.
If you come, you have to be
putting
nice to
boxes.
them, otherwise they'll make it next
Some other
September.
But they're making a big mess, and they've been told or requested by a lot of places to go overhead, especially when it's tight, like the villages.
Okay,
But no, the answer was they're going underground,
that's what I thought.
as far as I know.
All right, I will send out an email and have them come to next week, or next month's meeting. Is that consensus of what you guys want me to do?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Talks chief. We'll be nice to him too, Mark.
Maybe.
We don't have to be. I'm still looking for an Easter bunny, only there's not a lot of people here to hit up for that, so I thought I'd throw that out there again. The party's gonna be on April 1st. Anybody who wants to be an Easter bunny? Anybody?
April 1st.
April 1st?
Yeah.
Working.
I moved Bud be the Easter bunny. Anybody want to second that?
I think Matt would be a great Easter.
That's what I was thinking.
Like, I made a motion that Matt be the Easter bunny.
More like an Elmer Fudd, not a.
I second that motion.
I gotta go home with him, come on, guys.
Easter party is on the 1st,
April 1st.
April Fool's.
Yes, yes, it is a Saturday. The only other thing that I'm slightly working on is we had, Cedar Lake put a device in the lake, in Chippewa Lake. And they were gathering data, and it was supposed to help reduce algae and different things like that. I've been in correspondence with John Sandora. He's going to get back to me with data, because he wanted to get data from that to send it to me. Because I want to know if that same device would do anything for our lake, our little pond over on Lake Street to help clean it up. I don't have enough concrete evidence on that yet, if it would help or not, other than the lake is indeed deep enough to support the device between the water line where the muck is at and where the bottom of that lake is. But John's, I was out of town for a little while, and then John is out of town now. So when he gets back into town, he's gonna give me some more information to see if that would be something that would be worth our investment to help clean up the pond at all. And other than if you guys wanna start thinking about sending me information for the spring newsletter, because I'm forward thinking it's gonna get nice weather, today's nice weather. That's the only other thing that I'm working on right now would be the start of that newsletter. I figure I'll ask now so I get things in April.
Well, I'd like to tie in to your comment about the pond.
Yes.
Joanne, did you want to say anything about the thanks but no thanks the park district had?
Did you guys get the email that the guy next door to the pond sent with his idea that would give that pond to the park district? And then the park district's response was something like, thanks, but no thanks.
They're like, why would we
But
wanna do
if
that?
you need any advice on it, they're here to help. That's about as far as that went.
Well, they-
But
they made a
everybody
good
was
advice.
polite to the guy. I just said, thanks for the thought, I'll pass it along. And then Park District answered tactfully, but what they said, we don't want that pond.
Why would we want it?
There was
Does
time
the
when
village own the
Nate
pond
was
now?
thinking
Yes.
about,
Okay, so it is on, it's not in the village.
Right.
But the village owns it.
Correct.
It's in the township, what it is office.
Maybe put it in a sheriff's sale.
that's how we done it.
That's how we want it.
Okay, somebody.
Yeah, let's go, let's not pay the taxes on that, see what happens.
Yeah. Like we gotta pump it out and fill it in.
Maybe,
Or at least have solid piping to take the runoff from one place to another, put into a system, and then cover it up. You know, there's ways around it.
It's not a natural pond, it's concrete bottom.
It's just part of
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Okay, anything else, Kelsa?
That is all I had for this month.
Okay, thank you. Building and utilities, Barb?
Not a whole lot. I had emailed Amy Hopkins from Ohio Edison First Energy in January and asked her for an itemized bill for the light conversion at Point Park. And I didn't hear anything, so I emailed her a second time, and she said that engineering does not provide itemized bills. She said she was gonna ask legal about it, and I said, how can we get billed for something when we don't know what we're paying for? I mean, they have to know how much it costs for a mast arm and how much it costs to take one down. Talking with the First Energy Ohio Edison employees that come down and do the lights, they said that the quote that they gave us is we don't wanna do the job quote. So he said it could be done for less than half of that. So we'll see if I can get an itemized bill. And then I also emailed Brunswick and asked them, and didn't get it. So I was out of town, I'll get back to you, and he never did. I emailed him again, and I got an automatic reply saying he's out of town again. Brunswick Council people work. But so I just wanna find out, they put lighted snowflakes on all the street, on the light posts along Center Road in Brunswick. And, first of all, they tell us that we can't put anything on our poles, and then secondly, they wanna charge us for using that outlet down there. Like, well, you're gonna charge Brunswick a flat rate for putting all these LED Christmas decorations up, why can't you just leave our equipment on that pole and charge us $15 a year to use it? So, but I haven't heard back from Brunswick. So, but the power to the pole has been disconnected, so those outlets won't work now anyways. The lights on the Briarwood extension past the boat launch have been repaired. The two southern lights have been replaced, and the light on the sidewalk from Bungalow Bay to the beach parking lot has been replaced also.
So they figured out how to get to them.
Yes. You just talk to the lineman instead of Amy, and I don't know how she keeps her job. But the lineman is just a plethora of information.
Barb, there's junction boxes down by the beach parking lot.
Yeah, Ed sent me I was gonna check with a local electrician to get a quote to replace the GFI and the box.
A little bit. Those are, where it's 4 like 20 amp circuits. The ski club uses it for their sound system. And they were tripping that off, so I didn't know if it needed to be upgraded on the amperage, the GFI system. I think we can, because it's used by the ski club and others for.
Did it used to trip when they used it previously? I mean, that's.
We had it, I remember it tripped a year ago, right in the middle of Star Spangled Banner. So it's an issue. I just don't know what the perfection of it is.
Because the amperage on it didn't change at all, when they put the new box on there, it didn't change anything, so I don't know why.
Yeah, what I saw, they unscrewed the panel that had the combination lock on it. I don't know why we got a combination lock on it.
Because somebody keeps on opening it up and turning the power on and off.
Well, the lock is like you would put on a lock breaker school. It's
Right.
not an outdoor lock. It's got a combination. Nobody knew what the combination was. All I'm saying is that area needs to be perfected against how it's utilized.
About
How it's utilized. I don't know if a 20 amp circuit is adequate for that. If it was overloaded, they had the ski club sound system, which was supposed to be under 20 amps, but at the same time, Church of the Lake had a couple of coffee makers, and people say those are 7 or 8 draw when they're, in the warm-up phase.
Yeah.
Only one circuit?
What I saw when they took the box apart was 420 amps, but they were still tripping them. So I just don't know. It didn't seem correct to me.
Sounds like you need a better lock down there, and probably other people should know the combination as well as you.
Well, I mean, I provided as soon as Ed texted me, I sent him the combination for it.
I know, but that morning started out, well, Alan called and said, do you know the combination of the light up of that box? And it's like, I didn't know we had a lock on the box.
You told me to put it on there.
Pardon me?
You told me to put one on there.
I know, but if you're gonna put a combination lock on or anything, other people, like when that event was taking place, then there they were.
Well,
If they couldn't have got that open, then they couldn't use electric, and that would have definitely affected. That's an example. I mean, other people use it, so I guess that maybe more people should know that than just,
right,
I mean.
that's fine, I understand that, but I
So
don't
they
know.
can get to it.
I mean, plug in, you don't need to get into the box to plug in.
Doesn't get in to turn it on.
It's all on, you have everything turned on and.
Well, again, if it tripped the switch, they had to get in
Okay.
to reset.
So, but this is what I'm confused about, because when J&B Electrical put that box on there a year ago, 2 years ago, he didn't change any of he just put the same, everything was the same, he just put a new box on there, because the box was falling apart, so I don't understand why it was tripping.
Well, I don't either. Steve Midlick, from the ski club, and
Right.
Kevin Cunningham were doing that. Fortunately, they were adaptive enough to get figure out how to remove that cover and get it working. So maybe they could tell you how they utilized it and when it tripped.
Steve Midlick was the one that.
Steve Midlick
Okay.
and Kevin Cunningham, the two.
Everyone counts one does.
Kevin's kind of a maintenance guy. Steve's a good guy, but maybe they would give you a little insight to how it went wrong and how we can perform.
I just saw Steve today, so I didn't. Okay. Now, do you have a preference for what kind of lock you want me to put on there? Because again.
It doesn't matter, as long as other people are aware, like combination lock, then just tell the other councilman what the combination is. It's that simple.
That's fine.
If you want to keep one, I have a lockbox that you could screw mount to the pole, and everybody could have that combination for the lockbox and take the key out.
I have one of those too. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Ken, Parks?
I have an update for the Eagle Scout, beach structure. Just a crude plans here a little bit. I'll go over it.
Who's the Eagle Scout?
Somebody named you.
Yeah, yep. Austin, I just have Austin down. Austin, Boy Scout, Troop 517. We're making some progress on it. We decided to go with a square shape, and I just added a little bit to it here. The two sides are gonna have a railing, with rungs on it, on each side. And then there's gonna be a partial railing going in 3 feet on each side. I didn't draw them in on each side, but that's what it, so you have a 6-foot access point, in the front and back. And then we're gonna also have a venting system up top, just in case, you know, you get a lot of wind off the lake, and then just to be on the safe side. But yeah, it could be very inexpensive. He quoted me at $1,000, because we're just paying for the labor, but I think it's gonna be more than that. It was a low ball. I wanted to encumber 2,000 just to be on the safe side. So we can get him moving on this.
Did they even vote that they want this on the beach? Did you guys vote on this?
I talked to everyone in my committee.
Did they vote?
They no
They didn't
voted.
put that up.
So we should, okay.
That's all right.
I'd like to propose that we go with the Boy Scout for the Eagle Scouts program to erect a structure for the public on the beach.
Ken, the question I have, this shows a platform beneath it.
Yeah, there's gonna be a platform underneath it. I'm sorry to mention that. It's gonna be, the platform is gonna be just like the platform that we have on the beach attendant structure, which is really nice. And it's really stable.
Is it gonna be permanently anchored below there then?
No, it's not gonna be permanently, it's gonna be similar to what our sheds and the structure that's on there now. So if you wanted to, you can get a tow motor in there and you can move it in where you want.
Whereabouts on the beach are they?
It's gonna be about 15 feet, it's gonna be in between the beach, structure, the one that's on there now, and the volleyball courts. About 6 feet away from the wall. Yeah, this is just a rough diagram here. It's not gonna be exactly like this. He's gonna get plans and get them over to me, and I'll share them with everybody. You know, if you wanted to make changes.
Do you wanna wait and see those plans or what?
I know we've talked about it and it has merit. One question, we have polar bear jump in January, February, and then we had 4th of July, and then we had the ski team shows. Is this in any way gonna provide a view obstruction?
Oh, no, not at all. And it's gonna be further down the beach. It's gonna be similar to, you know, the structure we have on there now. It's 12 by 12. The railings, which we don't have to put on there, but I thought it would kind of enclose it, but yet leaving it open on the front and back. Those are gonna be, you know, you're gonna be able to see through them because they're gonna be rungs and then the rail on top. So you can see, right, and they're gonna be lower. They're gonna be 3 foot. So it's gonna be down, pretty far down.
So kids have something to climb on.
Oh, well,
Just
that's
saying.
what we have the beach tenants for. to
Yeah,
get
right.
that. But another thing, this program is very time sensitive, that he has to get to. There's a lot that goes into this, the Eagle Scout project. You know, he's gotta get everything going, he's gotta put the draw the plans by a certain amount, that he has to get an approval. So we're kind of at a time constraint.
What kind of lumber are you gonna use?
We're gonna use, just your decking type material, and then the base is gonna be that modified, I don't know what you call that, nylon stuff, yeah. Just like the other structure is put together. And the top that's gonna be metal. And if you look at a second page, you can see, you know, the structure of, what's gonna be underneath the metal top. But again, he's gonna put together the plans. He has not yet. He was pricing out the material, so he got his price. And then I'm gonna take that and send it out to everybody. So if we wanna make adjustments, it won't affect the price that much. You know, if we wanna do this, or we wanna take away from that, you know, it's, you know, we have flexibility on it. It's not definitely gonna be this, but it's gonna be something.
Well, the Eagle Scout projects are nice for the communities and the Scout themselves. Generally, the Eagle Scout projects I've worked with, the Eagle Scout themselves has to go out and secure the funding, so I guess you're part of that funding.
Yes, yeah, and that's why there was, he had to get it approved in order to even, do the project for the village, which he got approval on that. So there's been some pieces moving around.
Yeah, the main thing is you don't want to create a maintenance headache for people 4, 5, 6 years ago. A lot of tedious painting and those kind of things, when they, similar as the beach chairs that are done with wood, and then, 10 years later, they're trying to figure out, I gotta get rid of it.
Well, I would prefer to make it out of that material.
Trex. Some of the uprights, they use a vinyl hollow.
Well, we can do that.
Yeah, so
And he asked me what
price up.
material to use.
I just think you ought to think about the long haul, these, make sure.
I
it's
agree.
right for you.
But even the structure that's at the beach right now, the frame is wood, because it has to be, because you need the strength. But everything else is covered in that, in this other material, which is better. I agree with you. That's why I was sticking to encumber 2,000 instead of just 1,000, just in case.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to that
I
motion?
talked to the scout.
I second that motion.
Oh, did,
He said that, he knows he's got it going on.
I know.
They have timetables for them.
yeah, he's a good guy. I went to school with his son. Just recently. Coincidence that I found that out.
Yeah.
He's got 5,000.
Okay, we have a second to that motion. All in favor? Opposed?
Ken, is that coming out of the park endowment fund?
It can,
Because you have $5,171 left.
okay,
Now, that forever fence, we still have the monies in that for that as well.
right.
And that's 5,460. But you haven't spent that yet.
Okay, so now the fence, I'm sorry, because didn't remember exactly what I had in there. So we have enough for the fence. Give me that total again, I'm sorry.
The amount that you have left, even after you order that forever fence,
Oh, after, okay,
is $5,171.
okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to,
So you want
use
to
it
draw from
from.
there.
Do you have anything else?
Oh, yes. Yes, John said Dory came across a great opportunity for us. There's a grant, AARP, grant to improve the livability of a senior living area. So we were thinking that would be a good opportunity to replace our dock at our launch and add a kayak launch to that as well, if we're able to get it. And there's been a debate on where to place this kayak launch, because we gotta do something. I thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to replace our dock, which we need. It's leaking, and we're gonna have to do something anyways. The pontoons on it are in good shape for everyday use. So I was thinking you replace that if we win the grant, and then you take that dock, the one that we have, do some repairs on it if need be, move that over to the other location. The other location that was in question, some people wanted to use on Beachside Boulevard, the ones that were concerned about the traffic on a Saturday, which is only a couple hours. So I don't think that should dictate where we're gonna put it permanently, but it'll give us an alternative access point. Doug Schmatzer he's got one that he put together, which works great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have 2 locations, that's gonna cost us nothing, if we win the grants. The other 2 options.
Is John gonna file the grant?
Yeah, he's taking the lead on it. He did a great job with our pickleball courts.
What are you saying, 2 kayak launches?
We're gonna have 2, but we're purchasing one with the grant if we win the
You're
grant.
making 2 locations for people to launch kayaks.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're gonna have to get kayak rules and all that sort of stuff.
we'll take care of all that.
And as I reminded you, since we leased the land down by the boat ramp, we can control that water. At the other location, we cannot.
No, it'll just be a secondary.
I'm just telling you, don't act like nothing's gonna happen, just trust me.
Gotta talk to Nate.
The second one will not be on land or water control. The first
I'm
one
sorry,
is
say that
by
again, John?
the boat ramp, the water by the boat ramp, we control. We have a lease on that, and it goes out into the water, and then we have from the boat ramp over to the beach, and probably like behind swimmer and all that. That's ours to control. So we can make rules, like if you want to say only Chippewa residents, control who uses it. You can do that there. I don't think you can do that at the other location because we do not control that water, so you probably can't make rules for it.
Possibly not. Yeah.
Amend our lease.
Yeah.
We don't lease that land that he's talking, we only have that one
Amend it and
area.
we'll take it over.
The other thought that I had,
Talk loud.
the covenant that we have in place along beachside provides access in and out. And when that was put in place, that was for pedestrians, foot traffic. Now, with each passing year, we see more and more golf carts. My opinion is, it's but a matter of time before a private owner that is along beachside is gonna complain about all the motorized golf carts that are parking on his or her property.
Well,
So I'm of the opinion we need to be judicious and be thoughtful about how we place things and where we put them.
well, this location is actually close to that parking lot.
Yeah, and it is, also becomes a public enticement.
Well, you gotta have a parking sticker to park there, otherwise you get ticketed.
You gotta have a lot of things. I'll point out that the law enforcement presence we have are here on a part-time basis. If we put the dock, whatever you care to call it, kayak launch, on the other side of the boat ramp, it's already gated, we already control access, and we, the village, owns that property. It has ample parking. So they're parking on our property, we control it, we have an easement out into the lake. And I've understood that sometimes there's concern with, the ski team. Saturday morning is one day of the week, Thursday evening is one day of the week. We're talking about providing an access point 7 days a week, whenever you care to go do it. Does not have to be Saturday. The other observation I'll make is when you put a kayak in from that point, you go out into the lake, you turn left. The ski dock is to your right. If you put it where you're suggesting, there by Verib's place, and we're right next to the beach, we go right by the ski platform. And for the many years that I participated in being a regular going kayaking on a Saturday morning, when we went by the ski platform, we wave and carry on and have conversations with the kids and or adults who were skiing. Never a crossword, never any kind of, what are you guys doing here? It was just simply a non-event. They waited for us to pass by. We did so quickly out of respect for them. And that was the end of it. So
I don't kayak, so I don't know, but I was contacted by many people that said it was a problem.
How
And I
many,
don't
many
know,
people?
maybe 12, 13 people that contacted me. And John is actually, he's been here, he's been getting some complaints as well, he told me today. So that's why, now I don't know if you misunderstood me, but the idea is to put it by the launch, have it attached to our new dock. I mean, you know, you were down there.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the main one, but on a Saturday, if somebody wants to launch, we can even put up a sign that not allow people to launch there if it's a problem. During those 2 hours, go to another location.
The other issue that I have is if you use the boat ramp as an example, you can walk out into the lake. You don't have to crawl off of and into the lake, off the beach barrier wall between the soil and the lake. That area you're talking about is kind of gravel, admittedly.
There's actually
sand,
two areas that
there's sand there, but it's kind of gravel. Whereas down by the boat ramp, that's all sandy. So if you need to be in the water and you need to walk out, and some people frankly are gonna require assistance. So it's easy to walk out into the water to provide that assistance. You don't have to crawl off and down from the wall or crawl back up and over the wall to get back up. It's not a big thing if you've got all your pieces, parts.
Wasn't there a cutout? I mean, you don't have to crawl over the wall, isn't there? I mean,
Well, there's two different
Well, that's if you're in the beach.
Right.
Yeah.
That's if you're in the beach. But I'll talk about me. That's the only person I'm qualified to talk about at the beginning. I got a bad ankle and a bad knee. Because I wish I didn't, but I do. So that is beginning to limit my ability to get into and out of, up and over, down and out. And the same limitations that I have, other people are gonna have, and yet I still like to go kayaking. So as much as we can be, and I realize you can't possibly design everything for all people, but be thoughtful about the folks who have some kind of limitation. And I know people who have limitations who get onto or off of a step is a big deal. Doesn't like a big deal to us, but it becomes a big deal.
Well, the people that have limitations, they just won't be able to kayak for those couple of hours on a Saturday.
Why do people want to be at the other end? Because they don't want to go all the way to the boat ramp? Is it a matter of traveling?
No, it's because of the ski team practice.
Well, they're still gonna run into the ski team. I mean, the ski team don't just stay.
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just telling you what people have told me.
And
They
again,
come to me and that's my
compared to
job.
the overall hours, the ski team isn't there that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe I agree with you, but my job as a council member is if the residents come to me with a problem, then that's my job.
It's funny because a couple of them you mentioned are on the ski team.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's prudent to do the first, rework your dock in the area that we're controlled and see how that functions, because it sounds like it could possibly do the kind of things that you were talking about. And then after you're done with that phase, then you can see how that functional is, and then you could go to phase.
Down the other way, isn't the shoreline, isn't that where all the,
Well, there's
you
two.
have to clear the shoreline there quite.
Yeah, you would have to. It's over with Bob Williams by his dock. It's like really close to that. I guess we own a section there that's
Right next to the parking lot. We own
there's, yeah,
right in front of
it's
Willowwood,
close.
so it's heavy, it's the heavy weeds there. It's by the
It's
dome.
that's a problem.
Where you had that willow tree cut and stuff in there. That's gonna be a pain in the butt to clear.
No, I know that's, but that was one of the places. Another place would be a possibility that I thought of, and I don't know if this would be, something we can do, but what about, we own that lot across from, Rebs, where that tree is, right next to the beach?
Yeah, so on the other side of the beach is.
Yeah, you would be actually crossing the kayak, or the water
Well, the
skiers.
ski team don't go straight up,
Yeah.
right past that.
The beauty is it floats. And you can move it.
Well, I guess the main objective is to win this grant and then take care of that section by the boat ramp and then take it from there. I think that's really what the direction I'm looking at. We're gonna have 4 sections of docking and we have we have access to that, Schmatzer's, his constructed one, I guess works great, that's what I heard. Well, you know, because you helped build it, right?
I did, but it has some improvements needed.
Okay, and then we'll just take it from there, you know, that's,
And that was just a trial balloon to see if it even remotely worked.
So Sandora's working on the ARP grant and stuff.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sandora working on the ARP grant?
Yep, yeah, it sure is, and the grant is due, I think the end of, March, so it's coming up, so we gotta get moving at it. But I mean, that would be great if that happens, you know, that's nice, and we're talking about going out 40 feet. So that's, I mean, they're beautiful, these, you know, it's the same, Alan gave me this is the same company. Easy Dock, and there's quite a few, docks Easy Docks that are on the lake right now. So it's,
They said the grant's due at the end of March. Do you know when that grant would be awarded?
I'm not sure. He was digging into it, and this is kind of a new thing.
That's pretty quick. And who is the grant funding source?
AARP. Oh.
Well, we got enough people in the village to qualify.
Well, they don't say it just has, it doesn't have to be just for the seniors. It's supposed to be for everybody, even though it is AARP. I was doing some little bit of research.
It's a community grant where you're doing stuff for the community. It doesn't. Yeah. But it's advertised via AARP, so that's gonna be the majority of the people that.
Good.
You talked about ample parking down by the boat ramp. I thought we weren't supposed to park.
I think they're referring to golf courses.
Yeah, but how many, you get golf carts down there, you've got somebody who wants to put their 24-foot pontoon boat in, and there's a bunch of golf carts there, and then you can't swing in and swing around to back that boat up. If we're gonna let golf carts park there, we should probably designate an area for that. Because golf carts, I would park just old anywhere, and I wouldn't really think about anybody else coming in and out of there. And then golf carts could end up in the way of the ramp and in the way of a boater trying to get their boat in there.
Yeah, well, the mark.
You get a truck and a trailer with a 24-foot pontoon boat, you need space to maneuver that boat.
And I can't disagree with you. I think of that automatically because I do just what you're saying.
So should we maybe make it, if we're going to say golf cart parking, make a designated area?
So we probably could do that.
Yeah, we got
Mark it off, maybe, put some lines in there.
Right, that way there's not golf carts in the way, there are parks there with little tiny trailers on them that hold down their kayak.
Because on Saturday morning and Thursday afternoons, when the ski team shows up, it's game on. They open the gate.
There are also a lot parked on.
They're parked in there side by side by side by side. Most of them with trailers on the back. Because they're putting their boats in to go skiing with.
Yeah, they're.
So they don't worry about pulling in, dropping off the boat and going somewhere else. They
Like the
pull
rest of
in.
us.
They just leave it there.
Well,
Because they're there.
we'll sell more beach passes, you know?
So. Well, we can do that.
The applications are due March 15th and mid-May, they will notify status.
What's the total amount they're gonna give out, do you know?
I do not know, but they say
I couldn't get that info either.
from 500 to 50,000, with the average grant amount of about 12,000. 80% are under 20.
That's a nice opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken, you got anything else for parks?
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
start
so.
looking into your Ditch Beach attendance sign up, supervisor, that sort of thing, get
Yep.
time.
Yeah, I started working on that today. I like to do things at the last minute.
Anybody else have anything for parks? Okay, we'll go to streets. We are still in the running for the small government road grant. We keep getting different information, but I believe now that they've said it a couple times, we are still in the running for that grant. And they're late letting everybody know, but what they say we'd know by May.
Right, sometime during the second quarter, May or June. And we're number 5 out of 5 priorities. So we're at the bottom of the priority list, but that still doesn't mean we're out. So it's still a viable possibility that we will get the grant. At least we're in the running.
We still don't know if we're getting the grant.
Correct. But we're in good shape.
Right. Does anybody have anything for streets? I don't think we have any snowplow issues since it hasn't snowed. Okay, law director Allen.
Okay, well, the only active case I have now, we already talked about it, it was 227 Rustic Brook zoning case. Nothing else, so that's a good sign. You also need to pass the ordinance to approve the sheriff's contract for the year. So I have that ready to go.
Okay.
This
This is
is
actually second reading.
second reading of ordinance number 879-23. An ordinance approving an agreement for law enforcement services for the village with the Medina County Sheriff from January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023, and declaring the same an emergency. So now we need a motion to waive the third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to pass the ordinance as an emergency.
Correct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, good.
Reason we're late signing that is because we didn't have enough councilmen last month to do an emergency.
But I talked to the sheriff's department and he said, fine, don't worry, just get it to him after this meeting. I have it for you to sign that. And also Gary sent me a model ordinance to apply and accept a NOPEC grant this year, which we should pass. Right, Gary?
Right, yep. Yes, to get the grant this year for NOPEC, they've already determined the amount of monies, it's $1,666. And we have to pass legislation and sign the agreement for that NOPEC grant application.
I have the ordinance, I don't have the agreement. Do you have that?
Yes, I give it to the mayor.
So this is the first reading of ordinance number 880-23, an ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council NOPEC 2023 Energized Community Grant.
Need a motion to waive the 3 readings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to pass this as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
This is what you want me to sign this one?
Yes, I was gonna ask for a motion from council authorizing you to sign it.
Also,
They just voted to do it.
Gary received notices that they're increasing the value
Just one.
of 14 properties that the village owns. They're basically unbuildable lots on Garmin and Chippewa and a couple other locations. But you know, these are the ones that a couple of years ago, they had some of them revalued at $29,000 or $12,000. So I filed all the paperwork to get all of these lots reduced to around $600 in value. So these notices are with the reappraisal of 2022. They're raising these values by $100 or $200, which will be almost negligible in terms of an increased tax. So the question is, do you want me to do anything about this? Because I'm sure if I apply on all 14 properties, they might reduce them to their previous values. So like an $800 property could become a $600 property again, and so forth. But that's the numbers we're talking about. They're not astronomical.
Yeah, but how many are there? There's a lot.
14. And they're all valued between $600 and $600 each and $1,000 each.
They're not totally unbuildable.
They're unbuildable. They should reduce the values. And I can apply for it. All I need is your okay, your
Make a
say.
motion that, yeah,
Sure.
why not?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Alan, are you applying under like a green space? What kind of criteria are you?
No, this is an appeal to the auditor to reevaluate the properties. And on the same reasons I used last time, the fact that they're not buildable, they're not productive, they're unlikely to be sold to anybody, and even at $800 or $1,000 each, they're overrated. That's
What's the new auditor's name?
the new auditor. I'm not sure. Who is it? It's on Kovac.
I forget. Theodosius, who's at the parade? Is it Theodosio or is that somebody else?
These are from Mike Kovac.
Yeah, his name's still on everything.
It is. Yeah, his name's still on it. But these mean I have to make 14 applications and list the reasons, and there are good reasons.
Listen, I think we need to do it, and Jim just asked me, how do we as a governmental entity pay taxes on properties we own that don't have any appreciable value?
Well, it doesn't, well, the value is like $600, and they tax you on that value, which is pretty low. But we have to apply for them to be exempt, and we have to show that they're being used for a governmental purpose. And I've always had this idea that I could try to use green space as a governmental purpose, but I haven't tested it yet. And I have applications that, I can get ready and file.
A lot of those properties that are listed on Brookshore,
Yeah,
they don't have a road. There's not
Right.
even a road access.
they,
So that's
they
a
don't,
major
I mean,
reason.
they're pretty much useless.
Yeah.
Although if you could buy one to get lake rights, for what they're worth now, because most of them do have lake rights.
I think that's an interesting concept, Counselor.
Yeah, I am a little shaky about the green space idea as a governmental
You got
purpose.
wetlands in there.
Yeah,
If we put a walk path through it, wouldn't it become a park?
could, put a little bench there, and a plaque, there you. And that's a governmental purpose to
Marty
have
can
a
move his
park.
monument down there.
And that's not a resale, that's a park.
Right.
So
Well, I'm happy to try it and try to make it fly. Because most of the properties the village owns are exempt. Obviously, this property, it has a governmental purpose and,
So if you put a park bench in it, then it's
Yeah.
considered.
I've got
And
it.
then we gotta pay them to maintain it. Most of those properties
they aren't.
aren't maintained at all.
Yeah, that could be costly.
It's hard to argue that this is a governmental purpose.
They're natural areas.
Yeah. It is hard to argue that with a straight face, because it's just a vacant lot that's overgrown, full of dead trees.
I mean, if we were cutting the grass on it and slapped a bench on it and called it a park, yeah, but that's gonna cost us thousands a year to do, so.
Well, you see why I have some, reservations about doing it. I'd be glad to file for it and argue for it, but,
is it wildlife reserve? I mean, we've taken a lot of their trees. There's some natural areas.
yeah, you could call any vacant lot that.
No, you could really call them that.
There's like,
Wildlife preserves.
There's a wetland there too, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the borders of the wetland are, but we can probably find out if there's any land that's officially.
You think they're in a collectible?
No.
Which one on Garmin Drive is ours on the?
It's not on Garmin Drive, it's on Hunter Drive.
You wanna take a look at the map? That makes it easy. It's the orange properties that are owned by the village.
If you look at the auditor's map and see the overhead, they considered our lot that's on Garmin Drive on Hunter Drive,
Really?
as well as Christian's lot is on Hunter Drive, as well as the other one is on Hunter Drive.
But you're not on
Hunter
Hunter Drive.
Drive is not even a drive there. If you look at Bones lots
Yeah.
on the other side of the street, his are considered on Garland. So it's like the name of the street changes right down the middle, which doesn't happen.
Is there an intention to put another road coming down?
Yeah, it's coming from across Chippewa Lake Road.
Right.
Oh, coming across?
Yeah, that's, Hunter Drive is on the other side, and if it were run across to tie in,
Yeah,
that's what I guess they listed on. There's 3 lots that are there. Oh, 01, 02, 03. And they are listed on.
Hunter Drive is in Lafayette Township.
Right.
Hunter Drive is
Hunter Drive is Lafayette
on the
Township.
other side of the creek from Garmin Drive.
But it's also listed in the auditor's.
it might have been originally
Where they are.
like that. That's why.
They're listed on Hunter Drive. And that one of ours is listed on Hunter Drive.
There's another wrinkle to applying to make them exempt from taxes, is that we have to pay taxes for a year before we can apply. I think we've done that now.
We've satisfied that.
And I don't know what the taxes are on all these little lots. Yeah.
You do know.
All these could be called wetlands because it's all soaking in there.
Yeah, you can't whimsically call something wetlands.
No, there has to be some kind
There
of
is a specific
determination.
process.
Any,
So you're gonna file this?
if you don't want me, if you want me to, I'll
I
file.
think I heard him say lunch.
That's your wish, council.
Hunter Drive.
Gary's got.
I don't know how much it's gonna cost, but it's probably not much. but
Not much.
That's like what we're saying.
That's what's for. Some of these lots were like 10, 12, $20,000, and I got them all reduced. Like 6 or 7,000. So it can be done. These are those tiny increases though.
Yeah.
Like $100 or $200 more than the last time. So I can do it, and I can do it without too much work or stress.
Okay, can I see that?
Okay, you got anything else?
One other thing. Gary, you gave me this agreement to establish Medina County Office of Emergency Management Agency.
Did you guys all get a copy of that I sent you from the county commissioners about establishing the emergency management agency? Did you all read it? You ready to pass an ordinance on it?
I don't remember.
I read it.
I did read it. What,
Confusing, actually, I didn't really understand.
But then their side for you, they're supposed to have 2 commissioners on that. For some reason, they've only had 1 lately. And then Steve Hamley came back and told them they're supposed to have 2 people on it. So they're trying to realign their emergency management governing body to have 2 commissioners on, and they want all the townships and villages and so forth to agree. And if you don't agree, if I'm reading this right, if you don't agree, then you have to get your own emergency management, which we might as well in this village, because they're helping us anyway, but still,
so that's what drove it. That's,
something like that.
it wasn't clear.
That's probably designed that way.
I move that the commissioners do the right thing.
Do I have an ordinance number here?
I was gonna call them and say, why don't you put sirens in?
That will be 881-23.
I just glanced through this, it doesn't look like it's been approved. Emergency service.
Yeah, because nobody knows, but sirens.
We know that.
And I think somebody has to send that to the commissioners so they know that our village agrees with this.
When you have the paperwork right here, I can have an ordinance typed up and shipped to you tomorrow probably. But the agreement you have.
Yeah, whatever Joanne gave me is what I passed you.
I wrote up.
You probably get another copy.
I can email it.
We can sign it. Okay, this is, in order to approve this agency in the county. It's ordinance number 881-23, and the first reading is an ordinance approving the first amended agreement to establish the Medina County Office of Emergency Management Agency and Homeland Security. It would be passed as an emergency. So is there a motion to waive the 3 readings?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to pass the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that's all I've got to talk about.
Okay, we'll go to Gary.
Okay. This past Saturday, I distributed the bank reconciliation report showing everything in balance. Are there any questions or comments about January's bank reconciliation? I have a motion approving the January bank reconciliation report as distributed and authorizing council to sign.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
This past Saturday, I distributed to all the council the end of January appropriations report for you to review and be prepared to sign off. Any questions or comments on January appropriations? We have a motion authorizing council to sign off.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. The end of January's uncommitted fund balance for the endowment fund, including parks portion, remained unchanged from November's report. So the reports I gave you back in November are still valid, as they are also for the ARPA monies. Any questions on those ARPA monies or endowment monies? Okay. NOPEC has sent out information that I provided to council earlier today about the 2023 grant application. We already did that ordinance review, didn't we?
Yes.
So that's wrapped up. And the amount for this year's grant is $1,666. And that combined with the other grant monies we have yet to spend, total $4,526.57. Once we get this grant approved and awarded to Chippewa Lake. There is $1,318.57 that we have to spend by the end of November of this year. Otherwise, we have to give that money back. So maybe this will help with some of the electrical stuff down at the park or wherever you're looking to do stuff.
Quick question on that.
Yep.
Can we apply that towards the siren if we were to go that route?
Possibly. For the first time, NOPEC, in the letter I just received, is prepared to authorize the use of NOPEC monies for things other than energy efficiency or energy infrastructure, subject to a review on a case-by-case basis. So it never hurts to ask.
Yeah, I noticed we've been having trouble spending that money for its purpose.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's possible.
Yeah.
What was the amount of that, 13?
If we get this award, which we anticipate we will, we'll have a total of $4,526.57.
You got to spend 1357 by the end of November.
1318.57 by the end of November, yes.
Yeah.
So we did the first reading on that ordinance, it actually got approved.
Like this.
Related to NOPEC, we also have the agreement that we have to sign. So may I have a motion authorizing Mayor Dodaro to sign the 2023 NOPEC grant agreement? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Now I can sign that. Sucker is to be used elsewhere. For the sponsorship grant for NOPEC, I made an error. I submitted it before council got to give the okay on it. And we've already been awarded the grant. So if you don't want the grant, I'll give the money back. This is for the Lions Club. So I apologize for that.
This has to go to a free community event, and we've been giving it to the 4th of July parade.
I
So,
need a motion or an ordinance motion.
Motion would work.
I move that we accept the grant from NOPEC.
Second.
all in favor? Opposed?
Thank you. I won't do that again. But I filled out the paperwork thinking it would sit
Next year.
until I forwarded after approval, but it just went right into approval to NOPEC. And they responded back right away that we got it.
Parade's actually about the only thing qualifies for that anyway.
It's a $500 grant and it will be deposited directly into their account.
And it's for a free community event, and if you look closely at our other community events, this is the only one that actually is free.
And it's the best community event.
Absolutely.
Okay, we already spoke about the Public Works grant that we're number 5 on the list of 5. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for May and June. We have the sheriff's contract.
Yep.
So we got that set up. All 2022 federal and state financial and other reports have been submitted to the appropriate authorities. So 2022 is officially closed and fiscal year 2023 is up and running. So I presume there's no questions about 2022 or 2023.
Is that an audit year?
No, we will be audited next year.
That'll be a big audit.
That'll be a big audit, yes.
You won't resign, will you?
Of course not, I look forward to it. We need to finalize the 2023 appropriations at the March meeting. I need feedback from council no later than March 9th. And Bud, I know you wanted to put 20,000 extra into yours.
Yes, that's right.
And so I will get that into it. And if there's anyone else who feels they need to add money for spending in 2023, again, I need your input before the March 9th meeting. I do have extra copies of those monies if you want to see how much you've got allocated. So if anybody wants a copy of those, I can give it to them tonight.
We communicated on a new sheriff's contract. I think we have plenty, but.
Yes, we're okay on the sheriff contract, correct. So I don't know if any of you anticipate spending more this year or not beyond what we have in the budget. If so, I need to know before the March 9th. I need to know no later than March 9th, excuse me. Because our meeting date is 3 or 4 days after that. Are there any questions on temporary appropriations going to permanent? If I don't get any more changes besides the 20,000 that Bud wants to enter.
What are you using that 20 for? Condos, sports?
It's a secret.
So if we get none of you upping anything else, then I'll have the permanent appropriations ready at the March meeting. Okay, as of the end of January, the balance of the primary checking account, $163,753.60. Money market account, $250,637.66. Star Ohio, $100,858.37 for a total $515,249.63. Any questions or comments about monies available?
250 is a ceiling for the money market.
Well, I don't like it to go over that because then it's out of FDIC coverage. But for $600, I wasn't getting ready to move it yet.
We have more than one money market account.
No, just one.
You can have more than one.
Oh, I can have more than one. Yeah. Any other questions, comments about money market? About finances, money's available. Okay, that's all I have.
I do have just I don't know if you can check into it or how you would find out about it, but, I was looking at my Ober statement
Yep,
from 2016,
right,
and it shows that there was no deposit made or no credit given for April and November of 2016.
April and November,
Yes,
okay.
and I know that was before your time, but.
Yeah. Okay, by chance, okay, did you talk to Obers about this already? You did, okay. All right. I will pull the records. And you said that was 2016?
Right,
Okay. All right, I'll pull that record.
thank you.
Did they, well, I can call them up and ask to see what I would have to do, I guess. Definitely they'll tell
Did
me.
we actually get a payment on those ones? Because I thought we were on like a December, June cycle.
Right, it's always paid twice a year, but when you look at your Ober statement, it's broken down monthly. At that time, it was, I think, all of $25 a month. But it's still credit that,
Okay.
Okay,
for public employees, it all rolls together.
all right, I'll look into that and report back to you.
I don't know if anybody else even has looked at their statement, whether or not it was missed for everybody or just on mine.
Did you just receive that?
I printed it, I just looked it up a week ago.
A week ago?
I don't know how many other people were on council in 16.
Yeah. Well, are you on Oprah for your teachers?
STRS for teachers, but it all rolls together.
I'm at $2.04.
Okay, is there anything else for Gary? Is there any other old business?
Yeah, just a brief report. Christopher Livingston is a little bit frustrated with communication on the siren. There's one company called Federal Equipment. Bob Bodette was their king guy. I know he retired, but all the information, maybe they've merged with another company. So I waved him off this week. He's still trying to get hard numbers for a budget. And it's probably something I'm gonna have to start stepping into and take a more active role to get some numbers for him. But hopefully we'll have something more finalized for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the audience. Bill?
Nothing.
Mark? Lisa?
No.
Mark?
No.
Russ? Russ, you must want something, because you don't just hang around here.
You're doing the underground locating, all the underground facilities down on Parkway Path. Is that for fiber optic? You know?
I mean, putting up the flags?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for fiber optics.
Why are they on Parkway and they're not gonna be in the village, Tamsa? Get that?
They've got lightings everywhere.
There's some ammunition for you when you
No,
talk.
I mean, they've got.
How long have they been up there on Parkway?
It's all marked. They're still doing it.
Yeah.
Everything. all
Marked
the
everywhere,
underground
my gas line,
infrastructure
water line, everything's marked.
I'll toss in my 2 cents. I've stopped and talked to the contractors. And like any well-oiled machine, there are multiple contractors doing multiple work for multiple entities. I don't know that they necessarily talk to one another. I know that the boots in the ground, the local contractors doing the work have a very low opinion of the people managing the work. They try to point out it's pointless for us to come into a community and mark out your projected work sites when you're not gonna be here for months. That paint's not gonna stay indefinitely. They said it's not a conversation worth having, so they simply do what they're told to do. They get paid, they move on, and they'll come back and mark it again when it's appropriate to do that.
So did they actually lay the line on Parkway?
Did they what?
Did they actually put the line in?
No, there's no.
No, they're just
Flags.
painting and flagging.
Oh, okay.
My question is,
once they do that, whenever it happens, how are the laterals gonna get to the house? Is that gonna be underground or overhead?
They don't,
It's
they don't
supposed to be
know
under.
yet.
Huh?
They don't know.
I don't
Well,
know.
they told us it'd be underground.
Yeah, they told us it would be underground.
Yeah, the guys doing the work have a different thought.
Yeah, those sheets.
There's a lot of site work.
Joanne, I have a piece of new business. You didn't-
Okay, we're still on this
Well, my
conversation.
main question is, Parkway staff needs to be paid when that could ever happen. Back in 2008, when they abandoned the underground utilities in the river and put it out in the street right away, tore up the street, and they tore up a good asphalt road and put that chip seal down. And now it's carrying on down, obviously.
Okay,
What's the chances of having real asphalt for a chip seal down?
you never know. We can wait till, Keith gets back and, talk to him about it. And then he can get his road committee. Road levy renews this year, so there's inspiration.
First opportunity is this fall, first chance.
He has been fond of chip seal, so if you have a different opinion, you really need to get it.
So when he comes back, he's supposed to be back here in a week or so, I think. Then we can have him go look up there and see what's up.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, now, is there any new business? Did I hear somebody say they had new business?
Yes, the watershed on Briarwood Boulevard, I think I've mentioned previously, is in deplorable condition. Got a lot of wood rot, needs some significant repair. I asked Jim to, look at it and give me a list of an approximation of building materials. And it's over, $700. And the labor will probably be, call it $2,500 for labor and materials to repair it. The roof is rotting, the shingles are shot, no drip edge. It was, by all appearances, a thrown together construction project. Needs to be redone, shored up, and repaired.
Is there a fountain up there in that thing?
There is not, but there is a water source, there's a water.
That's the water source for
For
Bob
the
Williams, where the Pride's.
And that's how I came to become aware of it.
There used to be a drinking fountain in there,
Oh, well,
many moon ago,
there is no longer.
yeah.
So what are you saying?
I need $2,500, so I'm making a
Just
motion
saying.
to encumber $2,500 to repair that building.
Who are you gonna have repair? Oh,
Jim,
is that legal? Why don't you have his, two of them do it, they're both in.
I care if not. I got $2,500.
Okay, is there a second to Bud's motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed?
Coming out of your budget or some other budget?
That's fine.
You're out of your budget?
You think I was?
I heard that.
Can't yell at somebody about a bad roof at the village, Scott.
Amen. Amen.
Is there any other new business? Okay, we need one more motion.
Please adjourn.
All in favor?
Good idea.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Right.
There I go.